Admiral Helena Chen stood at the window of her modest coastal home, watching waves crash against the rocky shore as the autumn sun painted the Pacific in shades of orange and gold. At 63, retirement had softened the edges of her once rigid military bearing, though the straight posture and calculating gaze remained, habits formed over 4 decades of naval and later space command service. The knock at her door was expected. The message she would receive was not. Admiral Chen. The young officer saluted crisply despite her civilian attire. Commander Reyes, Special Intelligence Division. Helena nodded, gesturing the woman inside. I haven't been admiral for 8 years, Commander. What brings naval intelligence to my doorstep rather than a secure transmission? Reyes placed a small black cue on the dining table. This came through the Kuiper Gateway 3 days ago, ma'am. The Secretary General insisted you see it before anyone else. When activated, the cue projected a hovering display showing deep space telemetry. Helena's breath caught as she immediately recognized the distinctive energy signatures. Vraxian drive configurations, she whispered. Thousands of them. 900,000 to be precise, Grace corrected. The long-range probe captured this footage at the heliopause boundary. We've confirmed it with 3 independent astronomical stations. The projection shifted, showing a vast armada assembled in the darkness beyond the solar system. Ships of various configurations formed perfect geometric patterns that stretched beyond visual range. Helena had seen similar formations before in simulations and, terrifyingly, in the skies above Earth 28 years ago during the 16-Hour War. The first conflict barely involved 2,000 of their vessels, Helena said, her fingers tracing patterns in the projection. We lost half our orbital infrastructure defending against those. There's more, Reyes said quietly, tapping the cube. The display shifted again, now showing an encoded text message. They come for revenge. You have 8 months. Prepare or perish. We can't identify the source, Reyes explained. It wasn't Vraxian. The language patterns are completely different. Whatever sent this knew exactly when and where to position the probe for maximum data collection. Helena studied the message, then returned to the tactical display of the Vraxian fleet. Her eyes narrowed as she observed subtle details in their formation. They're arranged in the same tactical groupings as before, she noted, her mind racing. Identical approach vectors, identical distributed command structure. A slow smile crossed her face. They learned nothing from their defeat. Reyes looked confused. With respect, Admiral, we didn't defeat them. We barely survived. They withdrew when their supreme commander was killed, pure luck. Not luck, Commander. Desperation and human unpredictability. Helena gestured to the formations. Look at this. Perfect symmetry. Mathematically optimal spacing. Textbook Vraxian doctrine. They're fighting the same war again because they believe their approach was flawless, that only a tactical error by their commander prevented victory. She magnified a section of the display, highlighting the massive command carriers positioned at precise intervals throughout the formation. The Vraxians think in absolutes. They believe overwhelming force guarantees victory, especially against a technologically inferior opponent. Helena's voice took on the sharp, authoritative tone that had once commanded Earth's combined defensive fleet, but they spent 28 years preparing to fight the human they encountered then, not the humans we've become. Reyes straightened, recognizing the strategic mind that had saved billions during humanity's first interstellar conflict. The Security Council meets in 6 hours. The Secretary General requests your presence. Helena nodded, already mentally cataloging the vulnerabilities in the Vraxian approach. Tell them I'll be there. And Commander? Inform the Quantum Computing Division to dust off Operation Longbow. We're going to need it. As Reyes departed, Helena returned to the window, no longer seeing the ocean before her, but the vast battlefield to come. 900,000 ships, she murmured, and not one of them understands what they're facing. The United Earth Defense Council chamber hummed with tense energy as representatives from every major nation studied the holographic projection hovering above the central table. Admiral Chen stood beside it, her reinstated uniform still slightly loose on her frame. Operation Bulwark begins today, she announced, her voice carrying across the chamber without need for amplification. We have 7 months and 18 days before the Vraxian Armada reaches Mars orbit. Every second counts. The South African representative leaned forward. 900,000 warships, Admiral. We have fewer than 8,000 combat-ready vessels. How can we possibly? By changing the game, interrupted Dr. Aisha Okafor as she entered the chamber. At 36, she had already revolutionized quantum shield technology driven by memories of watching Cairo burn during the first Vraxian attack. The Vraxians expect a conventional defense. We'll give them something else entirely. Holographic schematics replace the fleet projections, showing layered defensive systems spanning from Earth to the outer planets. Quantum deterrent fields, Aisha explained, manipulating the display with practiced gestures. They won't stop the Vraxians, but they'll force them to follow specific approach vectors we choose. The Chinese representative frowned. The computing power required would exceed our entire global capacity, which is why we're requisitioning every quantum processor on the planet, Helena stated flatly. Civilian networks, corporate systems, research installations, all of them. As of this moment, Earth has a single purpose: survival. Protests erupted around the table until the Russian delegate slammed his palm down. My grandparents witnessed Moscow's destruction in the first attack. If surrendering our computing resources saves even one city, there is no choice. Across Earth, the transformation began with staggering speed. Military installations that had lain dormant for decades hummed back to life. Orbital construction platforms that once built luxury space habitats now assembled automated defense satellites. In the asteroid belt, mining operations were converted to produce specialized munitions on an unprecedented scale. Colonel Javier Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the ES of Vigilance, watching as his crews deployed the 500th early warning satellite of the day. Below them, the red landscape of Mars stretched to the horizon, already being transformed by excavation drones carving massive underground bunkers. Status report, he demanded, turning to his executive officer. Network coverage at 63%, Colonel. We'll reach full deployment within 72 hours. Rodriguez nodded grimly. And the sleeper facilities? On schedule. The first million civilians enter cryostasis next week. The sleeper protocol had proven the most divisive element of Operation Bulwark. The notion of placing billions of humans in cryogenic stasis within hardened underground bunkers had sparked riots in several regions. Yet as the first volunteers emerged safely from test cycles, resistance had faded against the stark reality of what was coming. In her private office adjacent to the newly established Global Command Center, Admiral Chen reviewed the daily progress reports with grim satisfaction. Production quotas exceeded projections by 12%. Military recruitment had tripled expectations. The asteroid defense network was already at 40% completion. A soft chime announced Dr. O'Keefe's arrival. The physicist looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes betraying weeks of minimal sleep. We've cracked their communication protocols, Asia announced without preamble. The Vraxians use a quantized tachyon network for fleet coordination. It's elegant but predictable. Helena's eyes narrowed. Can we disrupt it? Better. Asia's tired face broke into a fierce smile. We can hijack it, but we'll need to insert the disruptors directly into their command network. Infiltration. Helena considered the implications. A small team deployed ahead of their advance. A suicide mission, Asia amended quietly. Helena accessed the personnel database, fingers dancing across the interface. Not necessarily. There's someone I've been watching, Lieutenant Commander Maya Wong. Special Operations. Her psych profile shows something rare. What's that? Helena's expression hardened as she pulled up Wong's service record. Someone who isn't looking to survive, just to make a difference. She sent the file to Aisha's tablet. Find her. Explain what we need. I suspect she's already volunteered before you finish asking. As night fell across the transforming Earth, millions looked skyward, knowing that somewhere beyond the visible stars, death approached. Yet for the first time since the warning, there was something else in the global consciousness. Hope. Lieutenant Commander Maya Wong had expected many things when summoned to the high-security research facility beneath the Atacama Desert. The sight of Admiral Chen personally observing her training session wasn't one of them. Again barked the facility's chief instructor. Faster this time. Wong pushed herself up from the floor, muscles screaming as she completed her 50th burpee in the punishing 1.5 grams environment. The enhanced gravity chamber had been her home for the past 3 weeks, her body adapting to forces that would cripple most humans. Sweat dripped upward in the strange gravity, beating on the ceiling in perfect spheres. When she finished the set, Admiral Chen approached, studying her with calculating eyes. Do you know why you're here, Commander? Wong straightened despite her exhaustion. To prepare for deployment behind enemy lines, Admiral. That's the what. I asked about the why. Chen gestured to the observation window where a holographic Vraxian anatomical model rotated slowly. 6 months ago, we recovered this data from a damaged scout ship. Study it. Wong examined the alien physiology, triple stance, elongated torso, dense musculature around the thoracic cavity. They'd evolved on a low-gravity world, Chen explained. 0.7 grams. Their combat simulations of Earth incorrectly model our gravity at 0.9 grams, a critical intelligence failure. Understanding dawned on Wong's face. They're trained to fight in conditions that don't exist. Precisely. In actual Earth gravity, their warriors will experience a 42% strength reduction and significant cardiovascular strain. Shen's eyes gleamed. while you and your team will have trained in 1.5 grams, giving you a substantial advantage in the 1-gram environment of their ships. Across the facility complex, Dr. Okafor led a team through final adjustments on what appeared to be a spherical device no larger than a basketball. The quantum disruptor's inner workings defied conventional physics, utilizing principles Aisha had developed by studying captured Vraxian technology. The disruptor needs to be within 50 kilometers of their central communication hub, she explained to the assembled infiltration team. Once activated, it will create a cascading failure throughout their quantum network. Their ships will lose all coordination capability for approximately 17 minutes. Colonel Rodriguez, newly arrived from the Mars deployment, frowned. 17 minutes isn't much time. It's enough, Admiral Chen countered as she entered with Wang. 17 minutes of confusion in a fleet that size will result in collisions, friendly fire incidents, and tactical paralysis. Earth's counterattack only needs that small window. Later, in the secured briefing room, Wang studied the mission parameters with her team, Styx-enhanced soldiers selected from Special Forces units worldwide. The plan was elegant in its audacity. Deploy aboard a decommissioned research vessel in the Kuiper Belt, appearing to be an abandoned relic. When the advanced elements of the Vraxian fleet inevitably captured it for intelligence purposes, the team would infiltrate their command structure. Survival probability is under 20%, Wang told her team bluntly, even with our physiological advantages. Staff Sergeant Dmitry Baranov, a Russian exosuit specialist, shrugged massive shoulders. Better odds than Earth has without us. In the adjacent room, Rodriguez reviewed final simulations of the Vraxian approach vectors with Helena and Aisha. They'll enter here. Helena indicated the orbital plane near Neptune. Their formation doctrines require they clear each planetary defense sphere before advancing. It gives us time to stage our forces exactly where they won't expect them. Asia highlighted an anomaly in the Vraxian fleet structure. We've identified what we believe is their central command carrier. This vessel here, twice the mass of the others. If Wang's team can reach it, then the entire offensive collapses, Helena finished. But that's not all. She accessed a secure database revealing designs for a massive solar energy collection system. The Helios network comes online next week. When fully charged, it can redirect concentrated energy through a gravitational lens effect, creating what amounts to the largest directed energy weapon ever conceived. Rodriguez stared at the specifications. Is this even possible? Theoretically, Aisha admitted. We're betting everything that theory becomes reality. As Wang's team began final preparations for deployment, Helena returned to the gravity chamber alone. At her age, the 1.5 grams environment taxed for limited endurance, but she forced herself through a basic calisthenics routine, feeling the familiar burn of muscles working against resistance. A junior officer found her there an hour later, breathing heavily but standing tall. Admiral, we've received confirmation. The sleeper protocol has reached 1 billion participants, and the Vraxian fleet has accelerated. First contact expected in 4 months, not 6. Helena nodded, unsurprised. They're eager. Good. She allowed herself a grim smile. So are we. The darkness beyond Neptune's orbit erupted with pinpoints of blue-white light as the first wave of the Vraxian armada decelerated into normal space. From observation posts throughout the solar system, humanity watched via quantum-entangled cameras as death approached. The massive ships moved with mathematical precision, their sleek, angular hulls reflecting the distant sunlight as they formed an expanding sphere centered on Neptune's position. In Earth's unified command center, Admiral Chen observed the tactical display with a calm demeanor that had become legendary among her staff. Right on schedule, she noted, checking the chronometer, and exactly matching our simulation patterns. The first automated defense platform in Neptune's orbit activated, firing its main batteries at the approaching vessels. The shots were predictably ineffective against Vraxian shields, but the data from the exchange transmitted instantly to Earth. Shield configurations unchanged from previous encounters, reported the tactical officer. Vulnerability patterns holding steady at 92% match to our models. Helena nodded. Begin the deception protocol. Let's show them what they expect to see. Throughout the outer solar system, automated defense platforms and decoy vessels activated, creating the appearance of a desperate, disorganized defense. The Vraxians methodically destroyed each one, unaware that the real defense assets remained hidden, gathering crucial targeting data with each exchange. Aboard the abandoned research vessel Galileo, Lieutenant Commander Wang and her team maintained complete silence in their concealed compartment. The ship drifted lifelessly at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, its emergency beacons strategically damaged to appear as if the vessel had been abandoned years ago. 3 days after the Vraxian arrival, Wang felt the telltale vibration of a tractor beam engaging the hull. Contact, she whispered into her subdermal communicator. Phase 1 complete. Half a billion kilometers away in the hollowed-out interior of Ceres, Colonel Rodriguez monitored the infiltration team's progress. Wang's in position, he informed Admiral Chen via secure link. The Vraxians took the bait. Chen's response was interrupted by a transmission that overrode every communication channel in the solar system. The image of a Vraxian commander appeared on displays throughout Earth's defenses, triptyle with iridescent scales covering an elongated torso and a cranial structure that seemed too large for the body supporting it. "I am Supreme Commander Zarek's Call of the Vraxian Dominion," the alien announced, its translator rendering the complex chittering speech into flat, emotionless standard English. "Your extinction is the price of your arrogance. No terms will be accepted." The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. In the ensuing silence, Dr. Okafor approached the command table. "He's broadcasting from the Central Command carrier," she confirmed, "and he just gave us the exact frequency modulation for their entire communication network." Helena allowed herself a small smile. Arrogance indeed. Aboard the Vraxian vessel that had captured the Galileo, Wang led her team through narrow maintenance tunnels designed for the smaller Vraxian engineer caste. The enhanced soldiers moved with surprising speed despite the confines, their muscles functioning efficiently after months of high-gravity training. "Command deck is 3 levels up," whispered Sergeant Baranov, consulting the holographic map projected from his wrist device. "But we'll need to cross an open area." Wang nodded, checking the specialized weaponry each team member carried, non-lethal stun weapons designed to incapacitate without triggering shipwide alarms. "Remember, we're not here to fight. We need to remain undetected until we reach the central carrier." As they carefully navigated the alien vessel, Wang observed Vraxian crew members struggling with basic movements. The ship maintained artificial gravity matching their homeworld minus 0.7 grams, but even so, many showed signs of exhaustion from extended deployment. "They're not built for sustained conflict," she noted. "Their physiology requires more frequent rest cycles than ours." On Earth, the final preparations were underway. The Helios network had reached full charge capacity, its massive solar collectors positioned throughout Earth's orbit, now holding enough energy to power the entire planet for a year or to unleash devastation with pinpoint accuracy. In underground facilities across the globe, the final groups of civilians entered cryogenic stasis. Over 3 billion humans now slept in the sleeper facilities, preserved against the possibility of failure. As the Vraxian fleet approached the orbit of Uranus, methodically destroying every human outpost, Admiral Chen gave a simple command: begin Phase 2. Throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of stealth platforms silently activated, their sensors tracking every Vraxian vessel while remaining undetected. Earth's trap was nearly ready to spring. The skies above Mars turned black with Vraxian warships. Nearly 300,000 vessels surrounded the red planet in perfect geometric formations, their weapons trained on what appeared to be humanity's primary defensive line, an impressive array of battle stations and warships arrayed in a spherical defense pattern. From his command throne aboard the massive carrier Inevitable Dominance, Supreme Commander Zarek's Call observed the human defenses with contempt. Predictable, he chittered to his executive officer. They committed their primary assets to defend their colony rather than their homeworld. "The human vessels are maneuvering to engage," reported the tactical officer. "Let them come," Zarek's Call commanded. "Show them the futility of resistance." The battle erupted with staggering violence. Human ships charged forward, weapons blazing against the overwhelming Vraxian force. The exchange was brutally one-sided. Within hours, the Mars defensive fleet lay in ruins, scattered debris orbiting the planet alongside the broken remains of orbital platforms. Zarek's Call's triumphant broadcast echoed throughout the solar system. "Your warriors fought with admirable courage. It changes nothing. Earth will fall within days." In the Global Command Center, Admiral Chen watched the defeat with grim satisfaction. "The Vraxians have committed exactly the number of ships we anticipated," she noted. "Tactical positioning is optimal for our purposes." Dr. Okafor approached, her tablet displaying Wang's team's status. "They've reached the command carrier." Wang reports they're in position near the central communication hub. Helena nodded and opened a direct channel to the infiltration team. "Lieutenant Commander, execute Operation Blackout on my mark." Deep within the massive Vraxian flagship, Wang and her remaining team members, two had been lost during their covert transit between ships, positioned the quantum disruptor in a maintenance junction where multiple communication conduits converged. "Ready, Admiral," Wang confirmed, her voice barely audible. "Disruptor armed and awaiting activation signal." Helena surveyed the tactical display one final time. The Vraxian fleet was reorganizing after their victory, consolidating their formations for the final approach to Earth. Nearly half their ships were clustered in tight formation, precisely where she wanted them. "All Earth Defense Forces, this is Admiral Chen. Helios Network, Prepare for energy discharge. Asteroid Belt Fleet, standby for emergence. Lieutenant Commander Wong. She paused, knowing what the command would mean for the infiltration team. Execute blackout. Wong's acknowledgement was professional, betraying none of the fear she surely felt. Acknowledged. Disruptor activating. 30 seconds to full effect. As the device powered up, Wong exchanged glances with Sergeant Baranov and Corporal Takahashi, the sole survivors of her team. "It's been an honor," she told them simply, drawing her sidearm. "Let's buy Earth as much time as we can." The quantum disruptor reached full power, releasing an invisible pulse that spread through the Vraxian communication network at faster-than-light speeds. Throughout the massive fleet, ship-to-ship communications suddenly dissolved into chaotic static. On the command deck of the inevitable Dominance, Zarek's call reeled as every display went dark. "What is happening?" he demanded. No one answered. No one could hear him. This was the moment Earth had been waiting for. From concealed positions throughout the asteroid belt, humanity's true fleet emerged, not the few thousand ships sacrificed at Mars, but tens of thousands of specialized attack vessels built in secret underground facilities. Simultaneously, the Helios network discharged its stored energy in a precisely calculated pattern. Massive solar collectors around Earth focused their power through a complex array of gravitational lenses, creating coherent beams that struck key Vraxian formations like the wrath of an angry god. Ships that had survived centuries of warfare were sliced apart in seconds. Vessels that had never known defeat exploded in spectacular fireballs as their reactor containment fields collapsed. "Target their command carriers first," Helena ordered as Earth's real fleet engaged. "Disable their ability to coordinate before they can re-establish communications." The Vraxian response was chaotic. Without central coordination, ship captains fell back on individual initiative, something their rigid hierarchy had never encouraged. Some fought brilliantly, others froze in indecision, and many fired on anything that moved, including their own vessels. Aboard the inevitable Dominance, Zarek's call watched in disbelief as his perfect armada dissolved into chaos. Through the viewports, you could see the approaching Earth fleet, smaller ships moving with impossible coordination, targeting vulnerable points his forces had never bothered to protect. For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Commander Zarek's call felt something alien to his species' psychology. He felt fear. Lieutenant Commander Maya Wong ducked as energy bolts scorched the bulkhead above her head. The Vraxian security forces had finally detected the infiltration team, and now dozens of warriors converged on their position outside the communication hub. She glanced at her remaining companions, Baranov bleeding from a shoulder wound, Takahashi grimly reloading his weapon. "The extraction point is 2 decks below," she said, checking the ship schematic on her wrist display. "But we'll need to cross the main concourse." Baranov laughed humorlessly. "Through 50 angry Vraxians? Lovely." Wong's communicator crackled with Admiral Chen's voice. "Lieutenant Commander, the disruptor is functioning beyond expectations. Fleet communications are completely disabled. What's your status?" "Compromised, Admiral," Wong replied calmly. "Extraction unlikely. Request permission to implement secondary protocol." There was a moment of silence before Chen responded, her voice softening slightly. "Permission granted, Commander. Earth thanks you for your service." Wong nodded to her companions. "You heard the Admiral. Takahashi, take the escape route with Baranov. Get that data back to Earth." "And you?" Takahashi asked, though her eyes showed she already knew the answer. Wong patted the second device attached to her combat harness, a miniaturized quantum field generator. "I'm going to introduce our friends to Earth's gravity." Across the solar system, the battle for humanity's survival raged with unprecedented fury. Earth's ships, designed specifically to counter Vraxian technology, struck with surgical precision at the disorganized enemy fleet. The massive Helios energy beams continued to slice through Vraxian formations, targeting their largest vessels and supply ships. In the unified command center, Admiral Chen directed the battle with the same calm precision she had shown throughout the crisis. "We can't destroy them all," she reminded her officers. "Focus on their command structure and logistics. A beast this large will collapse under its own weight once its spine is broken." Colonel Rodriguez, commanding the fleet hidden in the asteroid belt, reported continuous success. "The Vraxians are attempting to regroup, but without central coordination. They're working against each other. We're seeing friendly fire incidents throughout their formations." On the tactical display, the enormous Vraxian fleet that had seemed so unstoppable was fragmenting into isolated battle groups, each fighting for survival rather than victory. Inside the Vraxian command carrier, Wong set the gravity generator for 2 grams, nearly 3 times the natural gravity of the Vraxian homeworld. She planted it firmly in the central junction of the main concourse and activated the timer. "For Earth," she whispered, then stepped into the open area, weapons drawn. The gathered Vraxian warriors turned in surprise at the lone human female who stood defiantly before them. Their commander chittered orders and dozens of weapons trained on her position. Wang smiled. "Gravity's a harsh mistress, gentlemen." The device activated with a high-pitched whine. Instantly, the artificial gravity in the chamber more than doubled. The effect on the Vraxians was immediate and devastating. Warriors collapsed to the deck, their triple stance wholly inadequate for the crushing force. Some struggled to rise, their musculature straining against evolutionary limitations. Most couldn't move at all. Wang, trained for months in 1.5 grams environments, strode through them like a vengeful goddess. Her movements were labored but controlled as she systematically disabled the incapacitated warriors, making her way toward the command deck. After 3 days of relentless combat, Supreme Commander Zerek's call faced the unthinkable. Nearly half his once mighty armada was destroyed or disabled. The remainder fought in disconnected pockets, unable to implement the coordinated tactics that had been the cornerstone of Vraxian military doctrine for millennia. When Earth offered terms allowing the surviving Vraxian ships to depart, they acknowledged Earth's sovereignty and agreed to reparations. Zerek's call's response was predictable to anyone who understood Vraxian psychology. Defeat is dishonor. Dishonor is worse than death, he declared to his bridge crew. Then he activated the self-destruct sequence on his flagship. The massive explosion momentarily outshone the Sun and Mars' orbit. With their Supreme Commander gone, the surviving Vraxian captains faced an unprecedented situation, one the rigid hierarchy had never prepared them for. Some continued fighting to the death. Others retreated beyond the solar system. Many surrendered, preferring captivity to annihilation. 6 months later, Admiral Helena Chen stood at the memorial service in Geneva, her eyes fixed on the central monument. A simple obsidian obelisk bearing the names of those lost in humanity's defense. Lieutenant Commander Maya Wang's name was prominently displayed, her sacrifice acknowledged with Earth's highest military honor. She was found on the command deck, Helena told Dr. Okafor quietly, surrounded by 27 Vraxian officers, all incapacitated. She'd almost reached the control systems when the self-destruct sequence began. Aisha nodded solemnly, then held out her tablet. "I found something in the original warning message. A hidden data packet embedded in the quantum signature." Helena studied the display with narrowed eyes. The message contained coordinates to a distant star system and a simple statement: "You have proven yourselves worthy. When you are ready, we will be waiting." As the first of Earth's billions in cryogenic stasis began to awaken, Helena looked toward the night sky, visible through the memorial hall's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, observers had tested humanity and found them worthy of survival. "Ready the deep space communication array," she told Aisha. "I believe we have a message to send." In the vast darkness between stars, the remnants of the Vraxian armada limped homeward, bearing news that would shake their empire to its foundations. They had come with 900,000 warships, absolute in their conviction of victory. They had learned what countless civilizations throughout history had discovered too late: never underestimate humans fighting for their survival.